I was 21 and kind of wanted to make it as arty as possible. And so we had this strange tension where the studio was kind of a little bit scared.
Ever wonder what really happens when the cameras stop rolling? Behind the fun and fancy movie scenes, actors sometimes have crazy, funny, or even scary stories to tell. From silly mistakes to secret arguments, these stars spill the truth about their most famous films.
The Matrix changed my life, and then over these years, it's changed so many other people's lives.
Some stories will make you laugh, some will surprise you, and some might even make you see your favorite movies in a totally new way. Why? Because these actors are about to spill some tea. Harrison Ford on Star Wars. I thought Han should die. Harrison Ford is the embodiment of effortless cool. But behind the swagger of Han Solo, there was a man quietly questioning his own immortality. In interviews spanning decades, Ford has admitted that he sometimes felt Han's story needed a proper heroic ending, preferably one that involved, well, dying. I thought Han should have died at the end of A New Hope, he said, in his trademark dry tone. Imagine the collective gasp of the audience. The idea of a galaxy without Han Solo is almost unthinkable, yet Ford insisted it would have made the character more real. Ford's unease wasn't just existential musing, it also led to subtle creative clashes with George Lucas. The actor pushed for higher stakes, arguing that if Han kept walking away from every death-defying situation, audiences would lose the thrill. Lucas, famously protective of the story, wasn't convinced. But Ford's concerns weren't just idle complaints. He wanted Han to feel like a hero in the truest sense, someone willing to risk everything, not just dodge blaster fire with a cheeky grin. Off-screen, Ford's relationship with the cast was a mix of camaraderie and playful tension. Mark Hamill and Carrie Fisher recall that Ford often grumbled about script rewrites while still delivering lines that became immortal. The irony is delicious. The man who believed Han could have died ended up immortalized in pop culture anyway, with fans celebrating every smirk, shootout, and improbable escape. Even decades later, Ford teases about it with a wry smile, joking that Han's survival is one of the few things in his career he's learned to laugh about. And yet, that tiny kernel of rebellion, that Han could have paid the ultimate price, adds a fascinating layer to a character many assume was written in stone from day one. It's a rare peek behind the curtain, showing that even intergalactic heroes have complicated birth stories. And while Han Solo was dodging blasters across the galaxy, the next actress was navigating a far more modern battlefield, the wild, exhausting, and sometimes terrifying world of global fame. Jennifer Lawrence on The Hunger Games, I Was Miserable. Lawrence is basically the poster child for funny, relatable celebrity. But even she admits that fame can be brutal. Behind the bow and arrow glamour of The Hunger Games, Lawrence was juggling more than just acting. She was dealing with constant media attention, grueling filming schedules, and yes, a surprising amount of exhaustion that could make even Katniss Everdeen consider faking an injury. In candid interviews, Lawrence has confessed that she often felt miserable during press tours. Imagine being a teenager thrust into the global spotlight, where every stumble, awkward joke, or failed attempt at witty repartee is documented forever. Lawrence's self-deprecating humor came to the rescue. She'd famously trip, spill coffee, or nearly fall off the stage, laughing it off with a line like, "Well, at least it's not a capital execution." Fans loved her honesty, and critics secretly adored the way she turned potential embarrassment into charm. Filming itself wasn't exactly a walk in the woods of Panem. Lawrence talks about the physical strain of bow and arrow practice, the endless takes, and the suffocating layers of costume and armor. And let's not forget the Mockingjay pressure. She was supposed to embody the symbol of rebellion while also staying sane under the gaze of millions of fans. Her candidness about crying in hotel rooms, hiding from paparazzi, or simply wishing she could eat a hamburger in peace gave audiences a glimpse of the human side behind the movie star persona. And yet, Lawrence thrived on her own absurdity. She often joked about tripping over the Mockingjay cape, losing arrows mid-scene, or accidentally stabbing extras with her prop bow. Through all of it, she retained her humor and relatability, the kind of star who makes you think, yeah, I could hang out with her, even if she might spontaneously start yelling about capital politics. While Jennifer Lawrence was dodging paparazzi and arrows, Robert Pattinson was busy dodging, well, the concept of romantic vampirism entirely. Robert Pattinson on Twilight. I wouldn't have dated Edward. Robert Pattinson's smoldering gaze might have convinced millions that Edward Cullen was the pinnacle of brooding perfection. But behind the fangs, Pattinson had a very different perspective. In candid interviews, he admitted that, if given the choice, he wouldn't have dated Edward, or at least not in the way fans imagined. Honestly, I don't know why Bella puts up with him, he said dryly, earning laughs from reporters and eye rolls from devoted twihards. The actor frequently poked fun at the entire franchise, joking about the sometimes absurd intensity of vampire romance. Long hours on set, awkward romantic scenes, and a script that occasionally read more like poetry than dialogue left him feeling simultaneously bemused and bewildered. Pattinson often described his own performances as confused staring, which fans have since lovingly adopted as a meme-worthy hallmark of Edward's charm. Filming wasn't all sarcasm, though. Pattinson opened up about the emotional toll of playing a character trapped between human desire and eternal isolation. The makeup, contact lenses, and shimmering skin routine may have looked glamorous on camera, but Pattinson revealed the discomfort of long shoots and sticky prosthetics. And yet, he found camaraderie among co-stars, even if he couldn't stop joking about the melodrama unfolding around him. What makes Pattinson's confession so refreshing is his mix of humor and honesty. He could have leaned into the fame and fan adoration, but instead, he chose to reveal the slightly ridiculous, slightly exhausting reality of becoming a teen heartthrob overnight. By lampooning his own vampire persona, Pattinson reminded the world that even immortal vampires can be hilariously human behind the scenes. From sparkling vampires to icy waters, Jack's ordeal on Titanic proves that Hollywood's most glamorous films often hide the grimiest struggles. Leonardo DiCaprio on Titanic, it was a nightmare. When you think of Titanic, you probably picture sweeping romance, icy oceans, and DiCaprio and Winslet's heart-stopping embrace at the ship's bow. But behind the glamour, Leo's experience was, well, a little less cinematic. In interviews, he's described the shoot as physically brutal, long hours in freezing water, endless takes, and a near-constant feeling of hypothermia. "I have never been that cold in my life," he admitted, "and I had to do it over and over again. It was a nightmare." The infamous scene where Jack freezes in the Atlantic? Totally real. DiCaprio spent hours in icy water tanks, and Winslet was not much better off. The actors jokingly compared themselves to soggy, miserable ice cubes between takes. And let's not even get started on the scene with the lifeboats, props, and water didn't always cooperate. And crew members reportedly had to physically hold extras upright in the choppy tank water. Off camera, the stress of filming didn't exactly melt away. Pressure from James Cameron's perfectionism, combined with DiCaprio's own drive to deliver a believable performance, meant there was little room for levity. Yet even in the harshest moments, Leo's humor shone through. Whether it was quipping about being soaked and shivering, or making light of having to memorize endless dialogue while turning blue from the cold. The irony of creating one of the most romantic films ever while practically freezing to death is not lost on DiCaprio. Reflecting back, he admits that it was exhausting, but worth it, and he even credits the shared misery for bonding with Winslet. After all, nothing forges on-screen chemistry quite like nearly succumbing to hypothermia together. Despite the hardships, DiCaprio's confession offers a fascinating peek behind the iconic film. The romance we see on screen was forged through literal discomfort, perseverance, and a few laughs at their own suffering. It's a reminder that movie magic often comes at a very human cost. Anne Hathaway on The Dark Knight Rises, I Thought They'd Fire Me. Anne Hathaway's sleek cat burglar Catwoman may have dazzled audiences on the big screen, but behind the mask, Hathaway faced a cocktail of anxiety, physical strain, and a healthy dose of self-doubt. In candid interviews, she admitted that she constantly worried about living up to the legacy of the Batman franchise. "I honestly thought they'd fire me," she confessed, describing the stress of embodying a character that fans already had strong opinions about. The pressure wasn't just psychological. Hathaway endured months of intense physical training, from martial arts choreography to high-wire stunts. She recounts moments of sheer terror dangling from cables or performing flips that left her shaking with adrenaline and occasionally imagining how embarrassing it would be if she ended up as Gotham's latest casualty. Her confession reveals a side of Hollywood rarely seen: the blend of fear, determination, and resilience required to pull off a role that looks effortless on screen. Despite her nerves, Hathaway's humor helped her survive the chaos. She often joked about the absurdity of Catwoman's costume, the impracticality of stilettos in fight scenes, and the constant fear of tripping during action sequences. Co-stars and crew members recall her cracking jokes on set, keeping morale high even when exhaustion was palpable. It's that mix of vulnerability and wit that makes Hathaway's reflections so engaging. The glamorous Catwoman was just as human, scared, and hilarious behind the scenes as any of us would be. Hathaway also touches on the emotional challenge of stepping into a world filled with larger-than-life characters and fan expectations. She admits she had moments of self-doubt, wondering if her performance would resonate, or if she would be remembered for a stumble rather than her skill. Ultimately, those fears transformed into pride, proving that perseverance, dedication, and a touch of humor can turn anxiety into triumph. And while Catwoman leapt across Gotham rooftops, Tom Hanks was stranded on a deserted island, proving that survival is sometimes harder than acting heroics. Tom Hanks on Cast Away. It nearly killed me. Tom Hanks gave audiences one of the most unforgettable solo performances in cinematic history as Chuck Nolan in Cast Away. But behind the gripping story of survival, Hanks endured an ordeal that would test even the hardiest adventurer. In interviews, he's confessed that the film was physically brutal and mentally exhausting. Months of isolation, extreme weight loss, and the terrifying reality of filming mostly alone. Hanks lost roughly 50 pounds during production thanks to a strict diet and the demanding schedule of surviving on a deserted island. He joked in interviews that he didn't just become Chuck, he became hungry, skinny, and slightly paranoid. Even more amusing, the man who could make you laugh or cry with a glance had to rely entirely on his own instincts and a volleyball named Wilson to deliver an emotional performance. Wilson became more than a prop. He was a co-star, a confidant, and occasionally the only entity that didn't silently judge Hanks's acting choices. Isolation took its toll in unexpected ways. Hanks admitted to long stretches of monotony, where he'd rehearse lines out loud, talk to imaginary people, or even invent conversations with Wilson. It was surreal, hilarious in hindsight, but also a genuine test of endurance. Crew members later admitted that Hanks's commitment was both awe-inspiring and slightly terrifying. No stunt double, no filler shots, just Hanks and the island. The irony of creating one of Hollywood's most intense survival films while relying on humor to stay sane wasn't lost on Hanks. He recalls moments of breaking into laughter over the absurdity of his co-star volleyball and joking about practicing survival skills he'd never use in real life. Despite the physical and emotional challenges, Hanks's honesty about the experience endears him even more to audiences, proving that the ultimate performance sometimes comes from the toughest, strangest, and quirkiest behind-the-scenes experiences. From surviving a deserted island to surviving Hogwarts, Hermione's journey proves that growing up in front of the camera can be far more complicated than magic. Emma Watson on Harry Potter. I wanted to quit? Emma Watson grew up literally in front of the camera, transforming from a bookish Hermione Granger into a global superstar. But behind the spells and magical adventures, Watson admits that fame sometimes felt like a curse rather than a blessing. In candid interviews, she revealed that there were moments during filming when she actually considered quitting the franchise. The pressure of being a role model, coupled with relentless media attention, was overwhelming, and even a genius-level witch can feel trapped in her own wardrobe. Watson was juggling school, puberty, and a sprawling film series watched by millions worldwide. Her honesty about the struggle to maintain normalcy is refreshing. Late-night crying sessions, sneaking away from press events, and the constant weight of expectation. Fans might remember her casting spells and correcting Ron and Harry, but behind the scenes, she was navigating an entirely different kind of magic. The magic of maintaining her sanity in a whirlwind of fame. Her reflections are tinged with humor, too. Watson jokes about wardrobe malfunctions in robes too big, awkward broomstick scenes, and pretending to understand wizarding dialogue that sometimes made no sense even to the actors. She also recounts the playful chaos on set, kids running around with wands, improvised pranks, and trying not to laugh while reciting complex spells. Despite all that, she developed deep friendships and an enduring appreciation for the story she grew up with. Watson's most striking confession is how much the fame weighed on her personally. It wasn't just acting, it was being a public figure during formative years. Yet, she emphasizes that those challenges shaped her resilience, humor, and perspective. Hermione might have been brilliant, brave, and occasionally bossy, but Emma Watson's candid behind-the-scenes account shows the human side of growing up under the unforgiving lens of global stardom. While Hermione was mastering spells at Hogwarts, Brad Pitt was confronting something far darker and far hairier on the set of Interview with the Vampire. Brad Pitt on Interview with the Vampire. It was miserable. Brad Pitt's portrayal of the eternally brooding vampire Louis de Pointe-du-Lac is iconic. But behind the gothic glamour, filming Interview with the Vampire was far from glamorous. Pitt has openly described the experience as miserable. Long hours on dark, damp sets, heavy makeup, and a cast of vampires that occasionally felt more like a horror-themed endurance test than a movie production. One of the most infamous confessions involves the chest-burster scene. While Tom Cruise had to react to a gruesome birth on camera, Pitt admits that even seasoned actors were horrified by the practical effects. It was like a tiny, wriggling nightmare, he joked, adding that the crew had to calm him down between takes. Gothic attire and uncomfortable prosthetics only added to the misery. as actors spent hours in layers of leather and synthetic fangs, attempting to look seductive while simultaneously avoiding overheating or fainting. The emotional weight was another challenge. Pitt's Louis is a vampire grappling with morality, mortality, and eternal guilt, and delivering that level of brooding introspection day after day took a toll. He admitted that some days he felt drained, physically and emotionally, struggling to maintain the intensity of the performance while navigating a set that was, quite literally, drenched in darkness. Humor, thankfully, kept the cast sane. Pitt often recounts joking with crews about the absurdity of vampire drama, laughing at the exaggerated mannerisms, and finding relief in playful pranks behind the camera. Despite the tough conditions, the experience forged camaraderie among the cast and crew, and Pitt ultimately looks back on it with a mix of exasperation and affection. Pitt's confession is a reminder that even the most glamorous roles often come with hidden toil, discomfort, and occasional terror, all of which the camera magically hides. The glamour is the illusion. The truth behind the scenes is sweaty, exhausting, and sometimes genuinely terrifying. From gothic vampire lairs to the mind-bending matrix of bullet time, Keanu proves that even sci-fi geniuses sometimes have no idea what's going on. Keanu Reeves on The Matrix. I didn't understand it. Keanu Reeves is now synonymous with Neo, the stoic hacker-turned-messiah of The Matrix. But behind the sleek black coat and bullet-dodging action, he admits he was often completely baffled by the script. In interviews, Reeves confessed, "Honestly, I didn't understand what was going on half the time. The philosophy, the dialogue, the alternate realities, it all felt like trying to read a foreign language while doing kung fu." Despite his confusion, Reeves dove headfirst into the challenge. Months of grueling physical training awaited him. Wire-few stunts, martial arts choreography, and high-flying sequences that made even the crew gasp. Between dodging bullets in slow motion and flipping over agents, Reeves had to make sense of complex philosophical concepts like choice, destiny, and the nature of reality, all while keeping a calm, messianic expression on his face. The behind-the-scenes reality was chaotic. Reeves recalls having to rehearse long fight sequences repeatedly, often with his brain buzzing from trying to absorb dialogue that barely made sense in context. He joked about looking at the Wachowskis and thinking, "I have no idea what you just told me, but I'll jump." His self-deprecating humor kept the energy on set light, and his willingness to embrace the confusion made him a favorite among crew and co-stars. Yet even amid the physical exhaustion and narrative perplexity, Reeves's reflections reveal a surprising emotional depth. He grew attached to Neo's journey, connecting with the character's struggle for purpose and understanding in a confusing world. It wasn't just action or sci-fi spectacle, it was a mental and emotional boot camp, and Reeves emerged with a newfound appreciation for both the role and the absurd genius behind it. Reeves' honesty about his confusion is part of what makes him so endearing. While audiences marveled at Neo's mastery of the Matrix, the man inside the trench coat was just figuring out how to survive filming it, and occasionally laughing at the sheer madness of it all. Margot Robbie on The Wolf of Wall Street. I was terrified. Margot Robbie's breakout role as Naomi LaPaglia in The Wolf of Wall Street catapulted her into Hollywood superstardom. But behind the glittering excess of Wall Street debauchery, Robbie admits she was terrified on set. Working with Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio for the first time, she was acutely aware that she was stepping into a whirlwind of talent, energy, and chaos, a place where one misstep could feel catastrophic. Filming was intense, from the infamous sex scenes to the iconic party sequences filled with excess, energy, and occasional flying champagne bottles. Robbie has candidly described her nerves during her first big intimate scene, worried about doing justice to the scene while maintaining her professionalism. But her quick thinking and fearless attitude won over Scorsese and DiCaprio, even earning her a playful slap from Leo during one improvised moment, a surprise she later laughed about. The learning curve was steep. Robbie had to adapt to the fast pace of Scorsese's directing style, absorbing complex dialogue, adjusting to rapid-fire camera setups, and performing physically demanding scenes that sometimes left her breathless. She described the experience as both exhilarating and terrifying, a kind of baptism by fire into Hollywood's elite filmmaking circle. Humor was her secret weapon. Robbie often joked about the madness on set, whether it was dodging flying props or keeping a straight face during absurdly over-the-top party sequences. Her playful attitude and willingness to embrace the chaos made her a standout on set, turning nervous energy into compelling performance. Looking back, Robbie's honesty about fear and vulnerability adds another layer to her breakout role. She wasn't just Naomi LaPaglia. She was a young actress navigating one of the most intense environments in Hollywood, learning to hold her own amidst talent, ego, and relentless energy. It's a testament to her resilience, charm, and sense of humor that she thrived under pressure. From navigating Wall Street excess to dodging bullets, as James Bond, Daniel Craig proves that even the most suave heroes sometimes struggle behind the scenes. Daniel Craig on James Bond. I'd rather slash my wrists. Daniel Craig's James Bond is polished, fearless, and seemingly unflappable. But the man behind the tux admits that stepping into 007's shoes wasn't exactly a glamorous walk down the red carpet. In candid interviews, Craig once confessed that he occasionally felt he'd rather slash my wrists than do another stunt or reshoot a scene, though he later clarified it was more about exhaustion than regret. The physical demands of playing Bond are legendary. Craig has endured high-speed car chases, skydives, and elaborate fight sequences that left him bruised, battered, and occasionally questioning his career choices. In Casino Royale, he famously shattered a foot during a fight scene, but kept going, insisting on performing as much as possible himself. His confessions reveal the sheer stamina and mental toughness required to bring 007 to life, far beyond the suave exterior audiences see on screen. Craig's honesty extends to the emotional toll of embodying such an iconic role. Fans expect perfection in every scene, and the pressure to maintain Bond's charisma and coolness under physically and mentally exhausting conditions can be overwhelming. He's described nights of insomnia, relentless rehearsals, and the near-constant worry of messing up the legacy, showing that even the world's most polished spy has very human vulnerabilities. Humor, as always, helped Craig survive. He often joked about the absurdity of Bond's gadgets, the impracticality of some stunts, and the over-the-top villainy he had to react to. Co-stars and crew recall his dry wit, keeping morale high, even when the cameras weren't rolling. His playful attitude contrasted perfectly with Bond's stoic on-screen persona, revealing a very different, very human side behind the tuxedo. Craig's confessions remind audiences that even legends have limits. The perfect spy on screen is the result of hard work, resilience, and a lot of behind-the-scenes suffering, all wrapped in a wink and a joke. Sigourney Weaver on Alien. I didn't think Ripley would survive. Sigourney Weaver's Ellen Ripley is a cinematic icon, tough, smart, and utterly unforgettable. But behind the xenomorph-chasing heroics, Weaver admits she wasn't always confident about surviving the sci-fi nightmare herself. In candid interviews, she revealed that during filming of Alien, she often wondered whether her character would make it through the story and whether she could pull off the intensity required. The infamous chest-burster scene is legendary, not just on screen, but off. Weaver has admitted that the reaction shots, where her horror and disbelief had to feel authentic, were genuinely terrifying. The crew's practical effects were so realistic that her screams weren't entirely acting. She was reacting to something she could almost believe was alive. Weaver's honesty adds a thrilling layer. The terror we see as audiences wasn't entirely fabricated. Filming was physically demanding as well. The tight corridors of the Nostromo set, heavy suits, and claustrophobic camera angles made stunts and chase scenes exhausting. Weaver recalls days of repeated takes, sweaty stress, and the mental toll of staying constantly alert while reacting to unseen alien threats. She had to convey terror, courage, and cunning all at once, a feat requiring both stamina and precision. Yet, humor helped Weaver stay sane. She often joked with the crew about hiding from the alien herself, or playfully complaining about the impossible filming conditions. Her lighthearted approach, combined with her fierce commitment, helped balance the tension on set and created an environment where even terrifying scenes could be executed safely. Weaver's reflections highlight the human effort behind one of sci-fi's most celebrated heroines. Ripley's courage is mirrored in Weaver's own determination to survive grueling filming conditions, terrifying special effects, and the pressure of creating a character who would inspire generations. It's proof that iconic heroes on screen often emerge from equally heroic efforts behind the camera. Tom Cruise on Top Gun. I was scared to death. Tom Cruise's Maverick might look like the ultimate fearless pilot, but behind the aviator shades, Cruise admits he was genuinely terrified during the filming of Top Gun. In interviews, he confessed that the high-speed flight sequences weren't just thrilling for audiences, they were terrifying for him in real life. I was scared to death, he admitted, recalling the G-forces, tight cockpits, and hair-raising maneuvers that made even a seasoned actor's stomach churn. Cruise spent hours in fighter jets, repeatedly subjected to extreme speeds, sudden turns, and rapid climbs and dives. Vomit bags weren't just props. They were a very real precaution for anyone dealing with sustained high-G maneuvers. Crew members recalled that the physical strain on Cruise was intense, with tight harnesses, pounding adrenaline, and the constant challenge of acting while being literally pushed to his limits. Despite the terror, Cruise maintained his characteristic humor. He often joked about nearly losing lunch mid-flight, or pretending to look calm while internally screaming. His playful attitude helped ease tension on set, keeping co-stars and crew in good spirits even during the most demanding sequences. The contrast between Maverick's cool confidence on screen and Cruise's very human fear behind the scenes makes the story all the more relatable. But the experience wasn't just about adrenaline. Cruise's confession also reflects the discipline, commitment, and courage required to perform high-risk stunts without a safety net. The iconic dogfights weren't created in a green-screen studio. They were real, terrifying, and physically punishing. Yet Cruise's honesty shows that embracing fear can produce some of the most memorable cinematic moments. The actor's reflections remind audiences that even the most heroic characters come with real-life vulnerability. Maverick's fearless persona may dominate the screen, but Tom Cruise's behind-the-scenes stories reveal the effort, grit, and occasional nausea it took to become that hero. Michelle Pfeiffer on Grease 2, I hated it. Michelle Pfeiffer is legendary now, but back in Grease 2, she admits the experience was less than magical. In interviews, she candidly said, I hated it, recalling long, chaotic days on set, awkward choreography, and a script that often made no sense. Despite the movie's bright costumes and catchy songs, filming left her frustrated and questioning her choices. Pfeiffer jokes that she spent much of her time dodging missteps, trying not to trip over skirts, and silently plotting how to survive each take with dignity. The cast camaraderie helped, but even that couldn't mask her honest feelings about the project. Looking back, she laughs at the experience and acknowledges it taught her patience, perseverance, and humility, all skills that would serve her in later, far more acclaimed roles. For more hilarious, shocking, and behind-the-scenes Hollywood stories, hit subscribe and never miss a secret.